Hey guys, Jim Downs at Motorhome Rehab Ranch over on Patreon. Thanks for coming today, and this is kind of cool. This is the first set that I've put up together myself, and we're going to talk a little bit today about vapor lock. I've had a bunch of folks email me about vapor lock. First, I want to introduce you to Osborne here. Osborne is my Android, my old Android. And if you call me and I say, look, can I turn on Osborne? Osborne is the one we're doing the audio podcast with. So this is Osborne, and you see he's got I get a signal. I can see where I'm at, how many seconds we're recording. So in the future, we're going to be doing a lot more audio podcasts and things. So Osborne will be my buddy here. All right. Okay. So vapor lock. What is it? All right. What is vapor lock? It's physics. Okay. It's physics. All materials, all liquids have a boiling point. Okay. Depending on what it's composed of, the viscosity of it, the pressure, and many factors. But at some point, everything boils. Now, if you want to cook beans, and you want to cook it higher than the boiling point of water in the air, of ambient air, okay? You put it in a pressure cooker, right? You put it in a pressure cooker, lock it down, pressure builds up. Now the temperature can come up higher and the beans can cook. And then when that little thing on it's top, it hits the pressure. You got different ones put on there, different pressures, right? All right, that's vapor lock. That's using vapor lock in cooking. Because the more pressure you put on something, the higher the boiling point rises. Okay? And you say, where does it rise from? From ambient air pressure. The air we breathe. Okay? Carburetors work at ambient air pressure, right? Fuel injection doesn't. Fuel injection operates at the pressure that the fuel is pressurized to. Okay? So fuel injection, by its nature, very nature, has less vapor lock because the fuel has been pressurized and the fuel has to get hotter to vaporize or to cause vapor lock. Now, what is vapor lock, right? You got your fuel running through the line and it gets a certain temperature and it boils. It's inside here. And you say, well, why do I care? Well, when that happens, you have a carbureted engine and you have a mechanical fuel pump. Okay? The mechanical, I wondered, how does that dumb little mechanical fuel pump know when there's 6.5 psi of fuel pressure to go to the carburetor? Because if you put more than 6.5, 7, 8, 9 psi of pressure to that carburetor, it'll overflow the jets and you'll blow flames out of the top. So that mechanical fuel pump has to stop at about 6.5 psi. How does it do that? The way it does it is it's a diaphragm pump, and it's connected to an eccentric on the cam, and it goes up and down and moves this thing in and out. Okay? Well, it's not connected. There's a spring. As soon as that spring gets a certain amount of tension, it stops and just goes like this. And the pump, the diaphragm of the pump, doesn't pump anymore until it sees pressure lower than 6.5 psi, and then it shoots pressure because then the spring works, right? Well, that mechanical fuel pump does not know the difference in vapor pressure or fuel pressure. So if you have more than 6.5 psi in your fuel line going to the mechanical pump, the pump won't pump, right? So it's really, really important to not have pressure or to not have vapor lock from the gas tank to the mechanical fuel pump, because the vapor will stop the pump from working. Okay? That's why we care. We're trying to get fuel to the carburetor. Now, if you have fuel injection, you're bumping the fuel pressure up. Okay? Now, there's another thing you can do. if the fuel continuously flows through the line and doesn't stay in the line long enough to get hot, right? If it's a return system where the pump is pumping 6.5 psi, anything over 6.5 psi, there's a check valve that shunts it out and it goes back to the fuel tank. So the pump always pumps, no matter what is vapor pressure, fuel pressure, doesn't matter. And it shunts all the stuff back. So it'll shunt back those vapors, right? So if you have a 3-port mechanical fuel pump, GM made these for big cars, Cadillacs and stuff. They had a lot of engine heat and stuff. They wanted to have a regenerating flow of fuel all the time, okay? Now, our coaches did not have that. It's a regular 2-port pump. In other words, fuel comes in, pumps at 6.5 psi, shoots it up the carburetor, okay? What we want to do, we want to put a 3-port mechanical pump where it shoots it back to the gas tank. Now, where does it go? It's got a 1/4-inch barb tip coming out of it. There's 3 ports on the mechanical pump. There's a barb tip coming out of the middle of it, 1/4-inch fuel line. Put that on there, run that over to the 1/2 inch. There's a 1/2 inch rubber line right under the filler neck that is for the return. You can cut that, put in a 1/2 inch T with a 1/4-inch takeoff on it like that. Run that 1/4-inch line over to it, and it will return back into that line and go to the tanks. Okay. So one way, how do I fix it? One way to fix it, excuse me there, Osborne. One way to fix it is to get a 3-port mechanical fuel pump. Okay. They're available most any parts store. Go in and tell them you had a 76 Tornado and you want a 3-port mechanical fuel pump. It'll look just like the one you have, except there'll be that 1/4-inch takeoff on it. Okay. Now, another way, because what we're trying to do is to not have fuel pressure higher than 6.5 psi, because the pump won't pick up until it sees 6.5 psi. Another way to do this is to pressurize the line. All right. Now, if you have 2 fuel tanks, you do. You have an AB switch. I would get a new one because we're going to rely on that sucker. Go buy a new. It's called an FV1, Fuel Valve 1. Napa, a lot of places have it. Now, when you get it, you'll see it'll be identical to the one you have, except it's exactly backwards. Yeah. The bracket's on the other side. Yeah, deal with it. Put a new AV switch in there. Now, your rear tank is your main tank. And you want to have what's called a home run. You don't want any obstructions or anything in that line at all. You want to come out of your rear tank into the AB solenoid, and there'll be a pass-through. When it's not powered, go straight through. Have that go through, go to your filter and stuff, and go on up. Now, on your filter, we've talked a previous video. There's video talk. It's a podcast, 35-minute podcast about this, and there's a large metal 10-micron 3/8 barb inline fuel filter, and that's what you need because the 10-micron gets all the garbage in the fuel tanks. You go back, review that video, and get that metal pump. You got a bracket on it too, so you really need to use. So go get that pump. That filter. Use that. Okay. Mount it on the outside of your frame rail so you can get to it. Okay. All right. Now, so we've got the home run coming from the rear tank through the AB solenoid, through this 10-micron filter, right up to your mechanical 3-port pump. Go to the auto parts store and buy a small, little cheap, about 50 or 60 bucks. It's made by Facet, F-A-C-E-T. It's a small, kind of a cube. It's an electric fuel pump, okay? But it's a pass-through. It doesn't have a check valve. It's very cheap, real cheap one. 3 to 5 psi. They have 2. Actually, they have one that's 1 to 3 psi that works well on the Onan. Then they have one 3 to 5 or 3 to 6 that works well in this application. So buy one of those. And from the fuel line going from the front tank into that AB solenoid, right? Put this electric fuel pump right there, okay? And power it off of the black wire. Yes, I said black. There's a black 12-volt wire powering the AB solenoid. Yeah, all the black wires in your coach are grounded except for the ones that aren't. This is one of them. So the black wire supplies 12 volts to the AB solenoid. When you push your button on the dash, it says auxiliary tank, it sends 12 volts to the AB solenoid. It kicks and turns into the front tank. Okay. When it does that, you pull power off of that to this new electric fuel pump, and it will immediately turn on the electric fuel pump, which is a pusher pump, and it's right next to the tank. So it will take fuel and it will push it. It will push it through the vapor. It will push the vapor lock through. It will pressurize the line. Remember we were talking about that cook beans in a pressure cooker? All right. So that electric fuel pump causes your fuel line to be pressurized. So that stops the vapor lock, and it allows the pump to keep going, pushes the fuel through it, and it drops it back down to 6.5 psi. Turn the pump off, and you're good to go. So that pump, when you push that auxiliary button, can be used several ways. One, if you have a vapor lock, you pull out of a toll plaza, it's really hot as blazes, and you pull out of a toll plaza and it starts to buck, push that auxiliary fuel button, the pump kicks in, pressurizes the fuel, pushes the vapor lock through, and you're off and running. Run about 20, 30 seconds, get it all done, turn it off, because the next time you can use it again, right? Another thing it's good for, if your coach sits for a long time and you go to cranking, you go to cranking forever. The reason for that is your carburetor is called a quadrisnot, and there are two rubber seals in the bottom of the float bowl that, as they get age on them, the seals drip out the fuel from the float bowl. So then you go to fire it up. It's got to prime the pump. The pump's got to get fuel to the float bowl, in the float bowl, for the jets to work. If you have this switch on there, you turn your key on, you flip the auxiliary tank, the electric fuel pump pressurizes the fuel line, pushes fuel all the way up to the carburetor, fills the float bowl, pump it 3 times, bam, Bob's your uncle. It'll fire right up. Okay? So this, having a second electric fuel, a second pump, an electric fuel pump on reserve, only works when you push that button. That gives you countermeasures. Pull it up to the toll plaza, it's hot, go to pull away, poof, pump the button. Actually, what I do, I come to the toll plaza, I push the button right now. Yeah, because I know it's going to happen. And then when I get out of the toll plaza, get 10, 20 seconds down, turn it off, good to go. Drop off of a highway. It's going to get hot for a while. Turn that pump on. It won't hurt anything. Turn the pump on. Let the engine cool down where it won't vapor lock, and then turn it back off. It's a wonderful option. It's a wonderful feature to have so you have countermeasures when you do have vapor lock. Okay. Now, if you have fuel injection, all of what I just said, basically, the theory is the same, but mostly because you're not at ambient air pressure. You're other than the forced fuel, but you're at a higher pressure because the injectors need the pressure to mechanically break up the fuel, which is the better way, because at ambient air pressure, our carburetors cannot atomize the fuel. It puts the extra fuel into the oil and contaminates the oil. That's the reason to have fuel injection. Okay. If you change your oil, that's fine. If you stay with the carburetor, that's fine. You need a few Band-Aids to deal with vapor lock. The reason we have vapor lock today is that our fuel formulations are more susceptible to boiling. Okay? That's what's happened. So this Band-Aid is to give you something to offset the boiling of the fuel. Vapor lock. What is it? I think you got it. Why do I care? Okay. What can I do to fix it? All right. If you want to get into this, kind of review this again, give me a call. 5 minutes on the phone, and I can help you with all this stuff. And that's what I'm here for. Just had a call just the other day, but this morning. I wish I'd had Osborne on here. I told the guys, man, next time that we're having a really good conversation, remind me to turn on Osborne, because I think everybody would be interested. And here recently, I did a 35-minute podcast. I was scared everybody's just going to hang up and say, the heck with that. A lot of you guys said you listened to the thing all the way to the end, and it was actually good. So if that's not true, you got to comment to me, man, because I'm trying to do things that you want to do, and I'm trying to use this new technology to help us communicate and to help us talk about different things. All right? So this is actually the first video that I have produced and downloaded myself. No editing. I'll get there. There is an editing program in the iPhone, but I'm not quite good enough at it, but I'll get there. All right? I'll get there. With your help, if you like this video, please hit like, share, and subscribe and all those things. And Ranch Hands, how am I doing, brother? Give me some more ideas. Give me some comments. Vapor Lock came off from one of you guys, and I'm ready to do some more. All right. Well, look, thanks for your time, and we'll see you next time. All right.